At this juncture, it looks almost certain that Jarrell Miller is officially out of the Anthony Joshua fight on June 1st at MSG. So the search is on for a replacement to face AJ on that date. I'm sure most of you have seen this interview where Hearn claims that he's been in touch with Luis Ortiz's team, and he says that Ortiz's team don't seem very keen on taking the fight because of the fact that there's only 6 weeks for him to prepare. Now, I don't know whether Ortiz was already in training for a fight anyway. Deontay Wilder, interestingly enough, says that he would like to see AJ face Ortiz because he says Ortiz is always in the gym. He says that right here. It says, out of all those guys, Luis would be the man who'd be ready. Luis always trains. So this is Wilder saying this. This ain't Team AJ saying this. This is Wilder saying this. It says, Luis always trains. After my fight, he stayed training. He stayed doing something. He stayed waiting on that call. People want to talk about his last performance. Well, we all have an off day. We can't all be perfect. So that's Wilder saying that he thinks Ortiz is going to be ready for AJ. But again, the word on the grapevine is that Ortiz's team are saying he won't be ready for that date. And in fact, I don't really have much time for Deontay Wilder fanboy channels or fangirl channels, more accurately. But this is one Deontay Wilder fanboy who I do actually have some time for because he don't take it that serious, all right? This is a guy who is actually a comedian called Jason Cross. He has this channel called Laugh at First Sight where he does a lot of very interesting videos on here, not all boxing related. There are many other types of videos he does. Been subscribed to this channel for a while and I enjoy the content, particularly the interviews with Leon Muhammad, but that's by the by. In this video right here, I remember Jason Cross is kind of a boxing insider to some extent, and he certainly has contacts within the boxing industry. And he says that what he's hearing, remember, this is a Wilder fanboy. This is a guy who likes PBC, who's always arguing the position of PBC. You know, he's always caping for them. And he says that he has to admit that the word that he's heard is that Luis Ortiz wants the AJ fight, but PBC are blocking it, aka Al Heyman blocking it. Now, if this is true, this tells us two things. One, that Al Heyman has an enormous amount of control over who his fighters fight and don't fight. And I think a lot of us assume that anyway. And number two, it tells us that most of these Deontay Wilder fanboys don't know a damn thing about boxing because AJ is not the one preventing the Ortiz fight from happening. AJ wants to fight. And in fact, remember when Luis Ortiz was mandatory for AJ, he signed with Al Heyman and all of a sudden he went and fought Deontay Wilder instead of fighting AJ. The AJ fight was for more money. Why didn't he just wait for the WBA to call the mandatory against AJ, go that route, get paid way more money, instead of fighting Wilder for far less money? It don't make no sense unless you think that Al Heyman had some kind of hand in it. And that's what I suspect, that it was Al Heyman who steered Luis Ortiz away from AJ when he was mandatory for AJ and instead put him in against Wilder. And it appears right now that Al Heyman is steering Luis Ortiz away from the AJ fight again. And yet these Wilder fangirls, try and make out that AJ's scared, AJ's ducking, AJ's a slave, AJ's a puppet, blah, 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 blah. These people are demented. You look at Anthony Joshua's career as a professional and even as an amateur. Show me where this guy was afraid to step in the ring with top-class competition, even when he was extremely inexperienced. Never showed any fear of stepping in the ring with top-class opponents. So the reality is that AJ's never been afraid of Ortiz. Why would he be? He's fought more accomplished fighters. Povetkin is far more accomplished as an amateur and pro than Ortiz. Facts. And he's no older than Ortiz either. In fact, he's probably younger. But yet Ortiz gets thrown around as this boogeyman who AJ's afraid of. What complete nonsense. Only idiots believe that. Literally, only idiots who have this demented narrative in their head. If you look at AJ's career, amateur and pro, look at the people he's fought. Running around acting like he's scared of Ortiz. Nonsense. Anyway, this Wilder fanboy here, who I do actually have some time for, Jason Cross, his Laugh at First Sight YouTube channel, even he is forced to admit that the word on the grapevine is Al Haymon is blocking this fight. Now, why would Al Haymon block the fight? Well, we know that Al Haymon likes to keep things in-house. He has done this at welterweight. I mean, for example, Terence Crawford wanting to fight Errol Spence, and Spence talking about you have to cross the street and come over to this side, which is basically, code for saying you have to come and join Al Haymon to get the fight. You understand what I'm telling you? So we've seen Haymon kind of close ranks and try and keep things in-house and prevent fights with fighters who are with rival promoters from happening. Now, all promoters do this to a certain extent. And I always have to say, because there's always some smart ass, some idiot in the comment section saying, oh, Heyman's not a promoter. Yeah, he's not officially a promoter, but he uses people like Tom Brown and Warriors Boxing, all these kind of people as a front, essentially. Because in America, you have the Muhammad Ali Act, where somebody's not allowed to manage and promote a fighter at the same time. You can either be a manager for a fighter or his promoter. You can't be both in the United States because of the Muhammad Ali Act. So to circumvent that, Al Haymon calls himself an advisor, and he gets these people to front up the promotions for him. Allegedly. All right? So, all promoters, to one degree or another, are guilty of trying to keep everything in-house. But in this particular instance, it's Haymon, it would appear, trying to keep things in-house, and Hearn willing to allow his guy, Anthony Joshua, to face Luis Ortiz on June 1. I thought AJ was afraid. I thought Hearn was a puppet master. I thought AJ's a fraud. Blah, 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 blah. Nonsense. Okay, and if you're talking about late notice and all this kind of business, how many Deontay Wilder opponents took the fight at short notice? Huh? How many of them? Johan Duopa didn't have a very long training camp against Deontay Wilder. Ask him. Go to his social media and ask him how long he had to train for the Wilder fight. Artur Spilka was brought in as a late replacement. Oh, yes, he was. On very short notice. And in fact, which fight was it for? I can't remember who was supposed to fight Wilder instead of Spilka. But either way, Spilka was brought in at very short notice. Areola, I can't remember if he was short notice too. I think he might have been a replacement opponent, but there were so many opponents of Wilder's who either, got the call very late, or they were replacement opponents, last-minute replacements. Gerald Washington, I definitely know, was a last-minute replacement. Wilder was supposed to fight some Polish guy who failed a PED test, and in stepped Gerald Washington. So Wilder himself has fought multiple late replacement opponents who didn't have adequate time to prepare. So if Wilder's allowed to do it, why all of a sudden, when AJ is forced to do it because one of his opponents gets popped for PEDs, now it's a problem. When Wilder's been doing it for years. There's nothing wrong with taking a late replacement opponent. And truth be told, 6 weeks, if what Deontay Wilder says is true, all right, and you Wilder fanboys love claiming all kinds of stuff, but here's your hero. Here's your Messiah, Wilder himself, saying Ortiz will be ready. Huh? How inconvenient that Wilder's saying that when you guys are saying, Ortiz ain't got enough time. Wilder says he's got enough time. So how about that? So if Wilder's been doing this himself for so many years, it is what it is. You can't really argue against Anthony Joshua doing it. Why wouldn't he? At the end of the day, he's got a fight. They've got a date. They've invested a lot of money in promoting it. So it is what it is. It seems that Adam Kownacki, who's also a PBC fighter, has turned the fight down too. Yeah? Here we have Adam Kownacki's manager saying Kownacki not an option to fight Joshua on June 1. Now, why would, in this instance, Al Haymon be blocking some of his fighters from fighting Anthony Joshua? Well, if Anthony Joshua fights Kownacki or Luis Ortiz and batters them, blasts them both out, if he does that to Ortiz, it's going to make Wilder look bad. I mean, imagine this scenario, right? Imagine Deontay Wilder struggles badly with Dominic Breazeale, and then AJ fights Ortiz and blasts him out in a couple of rounds. Can you imagine the effect that that's going to have on Deontay Wilder's market value? Can you imagine how the perception of him will change dramatically in the United States if they see him struggling with Dominic Breazeale, a guy who Anthony Joshua smashed to pieces, and then Joshua coming in and destroying Ortiz? Just imagine the effect that will have on Deontay Wilder and his image. Al Heyman don't want that happening. Point blank period. He don't want that. And as far as Kaunaki is clearly being lined up as an opponent for Wilder. So at this point, when Eddie Hearn is in the US, DAZN is a direct rival to Fox and Showtime. At this point, Al Heyman is thinking, you know what? I want to keep my guys unbeaten until they fight Wilder. And then maybe after that, there's a possibility of one of them going over there and fighting AJ. Possibly, all right? Depending on how Wilder does. If Wilder knocks out Kaunaki in one round, then Heyman might be like, well, yeah, I'll let him go fight AJ now, Kaunaki. If he gets a couple wins, send him off to fight AJ, that's okay. Because AJ, the best he can do is replicate what Wilder did. He can't top Wilder. You know, he can't top his performance if Wilder knocked Kaunaki out in one. Do you understand what I'm saying? So, to me, this looks like some maneuvering by Al Heyman, trying to save face and trying to make Deontay Wilder look good in the situation and prevent him from looking bad. Which is why I think he is, blocking the Adam Kaunaki AJ fight or the Luis Ortiz AJ fight. Of course, this is all speculation because, again, Ortiz's people have not yet tweeted. They've been completely silent since Eddie Hearn has reached out to him with a view to making the fight. They've said nothing. Hearn has been talking, but Ortiz's team have said nothing. Isn't that interesting? So it remains to be seen. Now, there are some other possibilities here. I've seen some people suggest that Luis Ortiz, a man who has been popped for PEDs a couple times in the past, I've seen some suggestions that he could be trying to cycle off PEDs now, and 6 weeks isn't enough time. And of course, if he fights AJ, it's going to be VADA testing. So that might be one reason that he might not take the fight. Again, I have no evidence of that. I'm just relaying what people are saying online, that it could be that. I mean, at the end of the day, again, Ortiz does have a history of being popped for PEDs. We're not talking about someone who's been clean his whole career. No, we're talking about someone who's popped dirty several times in his career. So could he be worried about getting popped again if he takes the AJ fight? Possibly. You know, another possibility being that he just don't fancy the fight. You know, maybe he thinks that he's got a better chance of beating Deontay Wilder, and that's the route he wants to go. And in fact, Hearn, this is rather disturbing. Hearn claimed, I think it was in this interview, that when he spoke to Ortiz's team seemed to believe they're getting the Wilder fight. Well, what does that say? If that's true, then that means Wilder's got no intention of fighting Anthony Joshua anytime soon. Here's AJ pushing for the Wilder fight ASAP. Wilder being offered an incredible deal of over $100 million, turning it down. And yet these Wilder fangirls running around saying AJ's the one who's afraid and don't want to fight when it's their man who just turned that money down. And now, at least according to Hearn, and we'll find out if Ortiz's team have anything to say about this, but according to Hearn, Ortiz's team told Hearn that they've been promised a Wilder fight. So Wilder wants to fight Ortiz and he don't want to fight AJ. It all seems very incestuous. It all seems like an Al Heyman keep it all in the house plan to me. I'm not necessarily saying Wilder and Ortiz are scared of AJ. See, this is where I'm different than the idiotic Wilder fans. And the majority of them are completely stupid. They're just unbelievably, incredibly stupid. Intellectually challenged is not even a strong enough term to describe these people. The majority of them. But I'm not sitting here saying what they, doing what they're doing, saying, oh, AJ's a coward, AJ's afraid, AJ's a bitch, and all this kind of nonsense. You go and do what AJ's done then, if it's so easy. You guys are all tough guys, right? You go step in the ring. Go get Olympic medals. Go fight in the World Games with very little amateur experience. Go have 20, 18, 19, 20 fights fighting Klitschko and Pavetta. You go do all that. If it's so easy, if even a bitch can do it. And you lot of jokers, and you don't even mention the fact that who is Deontay Wilder fighting in his first 22 fights? Nobody. And when he eventually fought somebody with a pulse in Berman Stavern, his manager, Shelley Finkel, publicly came out and said, he ain't ready for Klitschko right now. He's just a baby. And that was after he'd had more fights than AJ's had. But Shelley Finkel publicly protected Deontay Wilder from fighting Klitschko. Facts. But yet I will sit here and I'll be fair. Because them guys ain't fair. And Wilder fangirls, they ain't fair. I'll be fair. And I'll say, you know what? I don't think Wilder's necessarily afraid of AJ. I don't think Ortiz is necessarily afraid of AJ. I don't know for a fact. But my suspicion is they're probably not. It's Heyman. It's their management teams who are keeping them away from the AJ fight. And there's another possibility here when it comes to Luis Ortiz, because he has until Tuesday to decide whether he's going to take this AJ fight. Another possibility is they're just driving a hard bargain. Maybe they're making it look like we ain't going to take the fight, this ain't going to happen, in order to push the money up. And I'm sure there must be a figure which even Al Heyman would be happy with. Because Al Heyman's getting a cut, right, of whatever Luis Ortiz makes. Al Heyman's getting a cut. And I'm sure if Eddie Hearn keeps putting the price up, eventually even Heyman will go, okay, cool. I'll let Luis Ortiz go over there to the zone for one fight and take on AJ. I'll do it if you're going to pay this crazy amount of money. So it's possible they're doing that. We'll see. We'll find out by Tuesday. So, yeah, let me know what you guys think in the comment section below about this tragic comedy. I'm out. Join me on Patreon. I upload a minimum of 2 podcasts every single week, covering a wide variety of controversial topics, as well as live stream Q&A sessions. Take a look on screen right now at some of the podcasts I've produced so far. For just $3 a month, the equivalent of about £2 a month, you get access to all my new podcasts and my entire back catalogue of past podcasts, including my popular Confessions of a Nightclub Bouncer series. You can listen on your computer or on your smartphone or tablet by downloading the Patreon app from the Google Play Store or the App Store for free. The Patreon app also allows you to download each podcast in MP3. For less than the price of a cup of coffee, you get access to dozens of hours of exclusive content. It's easy to sign up, there's no contract, and you can cancel at any time. So come and join our community of free and critical thinkers by signing up with me here on Patreon today.